up, everyone, and welcome to episode 20 of the Bronx and Big Blue Breakdown. I'm your host, Brady Heslin, and today we'll be breaking down a New York Giants win, something I haven't been able to say since October, and the non existent New York Yankees moves. And before I get into it, I know this looks a lot different. I got some upgrades for Christmas. I got a ring light, I got a webcam. So I hope you guys like the upgrades, and I hope it seems more professional and just overall better quality. So thank you to my Uncle Mark and Liam, my cousin, for getting me these gifts. But let's get right into it. So I'm just gonna put my notes up here. I'm kind of doing a little bit differently. Normally I record on my phone and use my Chromebook for notes. I'm flipping it today, so if you see looking over, that's what I'm doing. But so the Giants won 34-10. They won, but at what cost? So they had the number one pick going into the week. All they had to do was lose, and they would have clinched the number one pick, and they won. It's a tough thing to balance. It was nice seeing a Giants win. I was watching with some family, and it was nice seeing a Giants win, and Jackson Dart play well and that kind of thing. But at the same time, it would be nice to get that number one pick. That's the main thing from the game. But Jackson Dart played really well. He looked a lot like how he did earlier in the season, with a lot of swagger. You could feel the aura coming through the TV screen. He was 22 for 30, 207 yards, and then 9 for 48 with two touchdowns on the ground. I think that's the big thing. He was running more, two rushing touchdowns. He hasn't been running a lot the last couple games, but they're more design runs today from Mike Kafka, and he just looked overall a lot better. And that is without Andrew Thomas as well. And I know this is a really bad Raiders team, but when you're this bad, you'll take the wins where you can get them. And Jackson Dart certainly, was a win this week. Wan'Dale Robinson, he got to 1,000 yards, so shout out Wan'Dale Robinson. He's going to get a lot of money this offseason. I really think he is. It's a pretty weak wide receiver free agency, and I think a team's going to throw him a bag. I don't know if it's going to be the Giants, but I think someone's going to throw him a lot of money, and he's going to take it. And he's earned himself a lot of money this season, and he's definitely one of the New York Giants' most improved players. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the end of this episode. I came up with a couple ideas today, and that's beside the point. But Wan'Dale Robinson, great game. He was 11 for 113. He had 14 targets. I believe he had 9 receptions at the half. So huge game from Wan'Dale Robinson, and it felt like they were just leaving him wide open. And Dart and Wan'Dale had a really good connection in this game. Pretty solid run game and pass protection. Marcus Bowe struggled a little bit. I would like to see them potentially maybe explore him working at guard or even center in the offseason. And if it doesn't work out, he can be a serviceable swing tackle, which, that's perfectly fine for a fifth round draft pick. I think he has a lot of potential. He's shown some flashes, but against a not so great Raiders team, he definitely was the worst offensive lineman. But I think he definitely has a lot of potential, and especially if they work him a little bit inside and don't wait for it to be kind of like an Evan Neal thing where it's kind of too late. Not comparing Marcus Bowe to Evan Neal, obviously first round pick compared to a fifth round pick, but I think his best spot in the NFL is probably on the inside. So we'll see if they end up doing that. But the run game was pretty good. 14 for 62 for Tracy, and then 8 for 45 and a touchdown from Devin Singletary. Didn't run the ball as much as they did in pass games with the running backs. They still had 31 carries, but 9 of those came from Jackson Dart. 14 for Tracy and 8 for Singletary. So it was kind of nice to see them let Dart aired out a little bit. He had 30 pass attempts, and it went to a lot of different players. I mean, besides Wan'Dale, Slayton was 2 for 36, Singletary 4 for 25, Gunnar Olszewski even had a catch for 19 yards. Bellinger was 2 for 11, Hodgins 1 for 8, and then Tracy had a catch but lost 5. Would have been nice to see Darius Slayton do a little bit more, I guess, but I think he's not a very good NFL wide receiver at this point, and unfortunately he's under contract for the next 2 seasons. They can probably get out of it after next year, but he's going to have to be on the team next year, unfortunately. No Theo Johnson in this game. He was out with an illness. Jeez, I can't talk. So it was Daniel Bellinger mostly at tight end. He took some hits in this game. Same thing with Gunnar Olszewski. I mean, this goes more into special teams, but man, that guy takes some shots. I mean, I know he already had one concussion this year, but he gets just like laid out sometimes. I'm like, whoa. Um, Only 2 sacks. A couple of false starts from Jermaine Illuminor. That was kind of frustrating, especially considering he's not going against anyone special like a Max Crosby, who didn't play in this game. So that's about all I got for the offense. I mean, 34 points. The Giants used to never be able to score 30 points. Now, it feels like they've kind of broken that and can consistently score 30. Maybe not consistently, but, multiple times a year they can put up 30. On defense, big game from Abdul Carter. He had half a sack, 2 TFLs, 3 quarterback hits, 3 pressures. Just a phenomenal game. And he is really coming along to end this season. We'll see maybe if he can end up being a Defensive Rookie of the Year finalist. I don't think he's going to win it. Same thing with Jackson Dart. It would be nice for both of those guys to be finalists. I know this is going back to offense, but I can't believe people think Tyler Shuck is better or should be, more in the offensive rookie of the year conversation than Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart's better. He's got better numbers. He's beat better teams. He's the better quarterback. I don't really know why this is like a huge thing. I mean, Tyler Shuck beat the Jets and the Raiders. Like Dart beat the Chargers and the Eagles, and he's got better numbers. I don't understand that argument. But getting back to the defense, big game from Abdul Carter. Big game from Brian Burns. He had 1.5 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, 3 pressures. He is up to 16.5 sacks on the year, which is tied for fourth all time with the Giants, tied with Jason Pierre-Paul. Interceptions for Okereke and Dane Belton. Nice to see some interceptions. They only had 6 on the year going into this week. So it's nice to see them get some interceptions. That's one thing that I would like to see, the new defensive coordinator try to. I'd like to see him be a kind of a turnover guy. The Giants haven't really had a lot of turnovers the last couple of years, and turnovers win you games. They really do. They steal possessions. I know that's kind of like Captain Obvious, but the Giants don't really do that. They have eight interceptions down in the year, and that was one thing that Wink Martindale was really good at, was forcing turnovers. So it would be nice for the Giants to bring in someone like that. And again, I'm trying to focus on this game, but it's so hard not to think big picture. At the end of the day, the team's 3-13, so yeah. On anything else? Dexter Lawrence would have had his first full sack, but Abdul Carter was offsides. That was kind of unfortunate. Kind of feels like Carter's having like one kind of significant penalty a game. It would be nice to see him, kind of take those out. A couple quarterback hits for Darius Alexander. He's looking a lot better as the year progresses. He also had a sack. Really becoming a threat in the pass rush department, but he's got a lot of work to do in the run game. I mean, he's a huge guy, young, rookie. He definitely has some potential, I think, with the right coaching. He can certainly become better in the run game for sure. TFL for Chauncey Golston. Yeah, all around just a good game, 10 points. But at the same time, it is the Raiders, and this team sucked. I mean, the Giants just looked like they wanted the game more. The Raiders out-tanked them. Bauer's on IR, Jeremy Chin's on IR, Max Crosby's on IR. Pete Carroll is just not a good coach at this point. Geno Smith is terrible and then got hurt. Genty, I mean, the Giants kind of just sold out with the run game, and Genty couldn't really do anything. So, yeah, great game from the defense, 10 points. You'll obviously take that every day of the week. And then great special teams. And I have to give credit where credit's due. Deonte Banks, this guy is really becoming a threat in the return game. And it hurts me to say this because I'm really not a Deonte Banks fan. I think they should have cut him. But I think he has a role. I really do. I think he can be a kick returner in depth at corner. Maybe I was wrong. I mean, he's not a good corner. Okay, he's not a good corner, but this guy can return kicks. He's got speed. He's got the vision. He's looked really good in that role. So, you know what? If he's going to be a depth guy and return kicks, that is worth a roster spot. It's like a guy like Jalen Hyatt. I know I keep going back to Jalen Hyatt. Like I can't go 1 week without talking about Jalen Hyatt, but like this guy does nothing. He does nothing. At least Deontay Banks will give you something on special teams. And I know the coverage has kind of gotten worse, but maybe with the right coach and who knows. But I do think he deserves a spot on the team. And obviously, he had the kick return touchdown that brought it back to a 14-point game. But yeah, gotta give credit where credit's due. Deontay Banks played a great game. He had a couple pass deflections. Um, I still don't like him as a corner, but I think Gunnar Olszewski and Deontay Banks returning kicks is probably one of the better duos in the league, honestly. I mean, I don't really know the stats on that, but just from the eye test, those two guys do a really good job. And then you have Smith Marset on the practice squad who kind of feels like the Giants and Giants teams are kind of just forgotten about, but that guy's also a really solid returner. So the Giants are looking really good at returning punts and kicks, and that's really important to me because I think special teams is really important. It shouldn't impact games, but it does. At the end of the day, it does, especially when you're the Giants. This year it's been the kicking game that has impacted them, but in past years, if you've watched the Giants, they've thrown out some terrible guys returning kicks. And I like now that they are getting guys like a Gunnar Olszewski that, specifically are there to return kicks and not throwing like Eric Gray and, other guys like that. Adoree Jackson returning punts a couple years ago. Like they actually have guys that are specialized in returning kicks. So I do like that. I know I kind of went on a rant there. And then Ben Sauls, he's been perfect so far in his career. Um, I think worst case scenario, he deserves a futures contract and can compete for a job next year as the kicker. Um, but do want to see them bring someone in. We haven't really seen much from distance. He did hit a 48-yard extra point because of a 15-yard penalty because of some doofus in a hoodie decided to come out and return or come out and celebrate on Deontay Banks's kick return touchdown. So did see that, but not much other than that. A lot of just chip shots for Ben Sauls. So that's about all I got from the game. And then, if we go to the Yankees, like there just isn't much to talk about. I mean, they haven't made any moves. They haven't brought anyone um, in on a major league deal from outside the organization, and everyone in the organization have just been on 1 year deals. There really isn't a lot to talk about. I mean, Kyle Tucker and Alex Bregman, those guys, they're kind of holding up the entire market. So, I mean, I don't really know what to say. I mean, I think once those dominoes fall, we'll have a lot more news to kind of talk about with the Yankees. Um, we're about a month and a half ish away from pitchers and catchers reporting, so that's exciting. But I mean, there's not really much to talk about. I mean, they signed Nick Torres, Mexican League MVP. I don't understand people that were like upset on like social media. Like it's a low risk, high reward. Uh, like maybe he comes in, he's terrible, but you know what? They're not paying him a lot. And then at the same time, maybe he comes in and he's a really good player. So, we'll see about that. I didn't realize my Chromebook was getting a little on battery there, but yeah, I mean, it's a low risk, high reward move. We'll kind of see, ready first base, and you'll compete in spring training for a roster spot. But other than that, not really much to talk about. So we'll just move on here to the studs and duds. Got a lot of studs this week and just a couple duds. So for studs, I have Wan'Dale Robinson. Hit 1,000 receiving yards, had a huge game, over 100 yards, over 10 receptions. Was just wide open on a lot of plays. Jackson Dart, played really well, 2 rushing touchdowns, good completion percentage, kind of let him air the ball out more, looked a lot more comfortable, and was definitely a good step, in progress in his development. Deontay Banks, at first I didn't know if I want to put him on here, but I was like, he deserves it, man. He deserves it. Kick return touchdown is a big play in the game. As much as I don't really like, cornerback Deontay Banks, the returner Deontay Banks, really showed up this week. So Deontay Banks is a stud. And then the pass rush duo of Abdul Carter and Brian Burns. They both split a sack, plus Burns had another sack. a bunch of pressures, a bunch of quarterback hits. Really made their presence known against two bad offensive tackles, which is something that they should do. And this is kind of off topic, but like, how is Stone Forsythe, a guy that the Giants cut in training camp, the starting left tackle for the Raiders? That is unbelievable to me. I don't get that. It's not like the Giants have some, insane offensive line unit that they had to cut Stone Forsythe. I mean, this guy's not very good. Um, and somehow he's starting at left tackle and got, you know, beat pretty consistently by the Giants edge rushers. And for the duds, this might be one of the most, or probably the best part of this podcast, is I actually have a note sheet here for the first dud. And this is a first in the Bronx and Big Blue breakdown. We've never had an announcer be a dud. But a guy that I normally like announcing a lot, Kevin Harlan, you are a dud. Because this guy was making pretty consistent errors on the broadcast. And a lot of people were saying, oh, why is Kevin Harlan getting the Giants Raiders game? Oh, that he didn't sound prepared. Like it was like he got this game and just didn't care. Like he did not sound prepared at all. He made a lot of mistakes. He called Wendell Robinson, not once, not twice, but three times. He called him Wendell Robinson. It's not like this is some rookie or some guy being brought up from the practice squad. This guy's been in the league multiple years. He's, at the top of the list in receiving yards this year, and you're calling him Wendell Robinson. It's not even like it's that, like it doesn't even look like Wendale. It looks like Wan'Dale. It's Wandale. That looks like Wan'Dale. If anything, if you said Wan'Dale, that would have been better than Wendale. And then why are the producers not telling him, like, dude, it's Wan'Dale? Like, I don't know. He also said defensive coordinator Shane Bowen, and then quickly tried to cover it up by, trying to tie in that Charlie Bowen, replaced Shane Bowen, but he messed that up. He called Marcus Imbo. Again, just not being prepared. I mean, that you got to know that Marcus Bow. And then there was one time, I know this isn't really a huge thing, but he was like Ashton Genty. I don't know, that just kind of like annoyed me. Like, he was running as Ashton Genty. Like, I don't know. But Kevin Harlan, he really struggled. He is a dud. I normally like him a lot. I still think he's one of the better announcers. But he had an off week this week. He had a really off week. So Kevin Harlan, you are a dud. And the second dud is the draft pick. Unfortunately, going from the first pick to the second pick, that's big in this draft, especially if Dante Moore does not declare. That's huge because Fernando Mendoza is the clear 1-1. If the Giants get that pick, someone's going to trade up. If the Raiders get it, they're probably just going to take Mendoza. I don't see them trading out. I mean, even though they have Geno Smith, he could be a backup, a pretty expensive backup, which also kind of seems like a new trend in the NFL. Like, you're going to sign your starter to a huge deal. If they don't work out, they'll just be an expensive backup. I mean, this is my contract. I think they're just going to keep him. He's going to be a backup. We'll see it with Kirk Cousins. I think they'll be, what they have to do with Geno Smith if they don't have an out in that deal. I'm not super versed in that contract, but yeah. So the draft pick, unfortunately, takes a hit. And if the Giants win this upcoming week, they could fall all the way down to like 6 or 7. So yeah, we'll see. We'll definitely see. Moving on to this week in history. So on Christmas Day, 1949, the Giants won the NFL championship, defeating the Los Angeles Rams 14-7 at the Yale Bowl. And this is one of the few championship games ever played on Christmas Day. So I thought that was a pretty cool fact. And I do have something for the Yankees this week, and it is pretty significant. On December 26th, 2017, the Yankees acquired Giancarlo Stanton from the Miami Marlins after his 59 home run MVP season, and one of the best hitters in baseball came to the Bronx. And the Yankees really didn't give up that much in that deal. I actually want to look up the details of that because I remember being like, that is not a lot. It was because the Marlins needed to free up money. I remember. Yeah, Marlins got Starlin Castro, Jorge Guzman, and Jose Devers. And the Yankees, obviously, they also took on a lot of his contract. But I do remember the Marlins gave some money. Yeah, the Marlins paid 30 million of Stanton's 295 million dollars. So yeah, I think this trade, you know, he hasn't been like that MVP player, but that was a no-brainer trade. And I love Giancarlo Stanton. I think he's an overhated Yankee a lot of times. Um, he's phenomenal. He's a very good hitter. He does his job. Um, I think his contract's getting better, as the years go on. It seemed like a lot at the beginning, but now it's, nothing like insane. Um, and yeah, I really like Giancarlo Stanton. I know some Yankees fans don't really like him, but I think he's a crucial piece of the team. And now looking forward. So there's one game left. One game left, home against Dallas, 1 o'clock. Um, that's it. It's crazy to me. I mean, it feels like I was, just doing, the Commanders episode talking about Russell Wilson and the moon ball and um, having high hopes for the defense and that kind of thing. And here we are. Here we are, week 18, 3-13 record, and they need to lose and the Raiders to win, and the Giants get the first overall pick. So, and if they lose, they can go no lower than number two. So, Giants lose, they at least get the second pick. If the Raiders win, they'll get the first. If the Raiders lose, they will get the second pick. And that's really all we're looking um, for Sunday. And then Monday. Monday's the big day. That is, Black Monday. We will see if Joe Shane gets fired or not. Um, I do want to talk about this a little bit. Um, I don't think he gets fired. Unfortunately I don't, and I think it's insane. 6 wins the last 2 seasons. Um, you know, I don't know. I think it's still the Giants have still the worst record since 2017. They might be tied now with Tennessee, or tied again, I should say. Um, it's just it makes no sense. I mean, there's been no reports out that say that Joe Shane's likely to be fired. Everything says he's likely to stay, but people are still holding out hope because it's just the common sense thing to do. Like it makes no sense to retain this guy. It really doesn't. It can stray away, or good candidates could stray away from the job, and he's on the last year's deal, so it's likely if they keep him, they're gonna extend him, which is like nuts to me. Like the team, like they're going like this every year, like they're getting worse every year under Joe Shane, and why is Brian Dable the guy that gets fired, but not Joe Shane? Like it makes no sense. And I understand John Mayer has cancer and that kind of thing, but someone's got to step in. So like this shouldn't be a thing where we have to keep Joe Shane because he needs to do the head coaching search. No, have Chris Mayer do it. Have Tim McDonald do it. Where's Steve Tisch? Have him come in and do it. Like there's guys there that can do it. Like why is there not a succession plan for John Mayer if he can't do it? You know what I mean? Like I don't get it. And if he does stay, I pray there's some sort of like Liam Cohen situation where, there's a guy like Clint Kubiak or something that's like, I'm not coming here unless this guy's gone, and then they fire him. But I don't think, I think John Mayer is a much different owner than Shad Khan. I believe that's the name of the Jaguars owner. But I don't know. All eyes will be on, Black Monday. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do an episode Monday or Tuesday next week. We'll see. Um, I do have a lot of stuff planned for the off season. Uh, I'm planning to do kind of like a mini awards thing. Um, on probably I don't think it'll be next episode. Probably the episode after. I want to do MVP of the offense, MVP of the defense, probably most improved, most disappointing. Um, Maybe like favorite moment of the year. I think we kind of know what that's going to be, Thursday night. It's Philly, but yeah, it's just crazy. Last game of the year. If I have any advice, just try to enjoy it because we'll be in. I don't know about you guys, but maybe we'll get to like the draft, and like the Giants would look all excited, like man, I just want to watch them play. I just want to watch this team play. So as much as the team sucks, as much as it might not be that enjoyable, just try to enjoy it because you will miss it, no matter how bad the team is. Every year I end up missing football season. Um, Thankfully, I am a huge baseball fan as well, so that helps. But yeah, try to enjoy it. 4 quarters left, so yeah, that'll conclude this episode. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, follow wherever you are watching or listening. I hope you guys enjoyed the new equipment here. Let me know if you guys like it. And yeah, until next time, geez, I cannot talk. Let's go Yankees and let's go Giants.